We do ask that you remain attentive because there's a lot of good material that Leo is going to be going over today. If you're so inclined, you can pull out a piece of paper and notes to take to test Leo later or test yourself, or to ask questions later. So it really is a fantastic book that he's walking us through. If you don't already have it, I highly recommend it. It is excellent. So without further ado, Leo.
Good evening, everyone. And I have to say that I'm really happy for the opportunity to continue in this amazing series of talks or study, whatever we would like to call, presentation, because I would like to steal Joanna's thunder here when she said, when you do not know about the subject, confess your ignorance. I confess my ignorance. What are we going to talk about tonight? But we'd like to share, and we would like to invite everyone that, as Kirsten said, if you have the book, please read it and try to bring your thoughts, your ideals out, so we can expand. Continue with the message that we receive, so we can expand our knowledge on what we will talk about tonight, and as well as what we have talked about a month ago, a little less than a month. This is session 2. Since we're also broadcasting this, I would like to let everybody know, and I'll be addressing them as well, so that people can follow us and they can try to understand these chapters. We talked about different things the last time. Some of you were here. Most of you were here. So I would like to hear from you. What do you guys remember? We're going to do a little recap. 5-10 minutes, the most. It was 3 chapters. Yes, we are, as you guys are thinking, we are actually doing this work covering at least 3 chapters each session. We already went through session 1, which covered three chapters of this amazing book, Taught in Life. Let us go back and try to bring the reason of the book, because bringing the reason will also give a purpose for us to be here tonight and direct us in the right direction. Imagine in the spiritual realm, a group of people saying, please, we need some kind of manual when we reincarnate. We need something that can help us in our day-to-day struggles, in our lives, in this reincarnation process that we come to learn, that we come to readdress certain things and become a better individual in general, right? So Emmanuel puts this work together based on something that they had in the spirit realm as well. So here it is, manifested for us from the spirit realm through the hands of Chico Xavier, a little over 50 years ago, that he actually put this work together. And here we are, several years later, talking about it, studying together. So we covered 3 chapters. Anything that you remember, just throw at me, please. You need a will, right? The will was one of the cabinets. Without the will, the other cabinets that he mentions, there were 4 cabinets that he mentioned there, will not work. And we're going to see a little bit more of will tonight, right? We talk about the mirror of life, right? We talk about cooperation. The mirror of life, simply put, as he said, is our... excuse me. The mirror of mind... The mind, he says that the mind stands as the mirror of life in all places, right? In this constant exchange of thought, feelings, emanating, receiving, not being able to stop what other people are thinking or feeling, right? What they project onto us. We can't stop. I can't stop what Dion is thinking about right now. I can't stop what Isabella's thinking. I can't stop what Raphael and Kirsten are feeling right now. Cannot. And we're exchanging. Believe it or not, it's impacting us. This is really important for us to think. However, with our will, right? With our will, we can coordinate ourselves so that we don't feel this or that way. How are we going to feel? It's up to us. So it's really important that we have these concepting minds. And one of the things that I like to remind ourselves as well is our purpose in life. Sometimes we think that, I don't know what I'm doing here. Somebody put me here. Okay, I have this body now. Here I am, 21 years old. Not really. And I don't know what I'm doing, right? In its ascension from the earth plane towards God under the leadership of Christ, this is us. It may be compared to the rough diamond. This is our mind, ourselves. And its ascension from the earth plane towards God under the leadership of God. So we're ascending to God. We're going somewhere. If you thought that you don't have a direction, we all have a direction. We may be lost. We may be in that sleeping mode that we don't know what we're doing, but we do have. And God has given us this ability to understand this through this manual and through many other manuals as well. Thank God we're here in a snowy night studying this manual, right? We could be doing other things. So pat yourself in the back. Yes, you're in the right place. Hopefully, we'll learn even more tonight. So, just for that small recap, we would like to talk about a really interesting chapter entitled Instruction. We're going to talk about instruction, education, and faith. Okay? Faith, right? Wow. Oh my gosh. So concrete to talk about it, right? So concrete, but we get there. Let's talk about instruction first. Emmanuel says the following. As you remember, I mentioned that I would like to read from the book because, number one, of my ignorance, remembering everything I can. And sometimes I feel that if we don't say it, perhaps, as Kirsten said, there are certain things that we really have to put out there. And I don't want anybody to miss out. Not that you will remember, but I want you guys to get the feeling off of it, okay? It has been said that 2 wings are needed for the human spirit to ascend. One called love and the other wisdom. He continued by saying the following. Love, through love, which is above all service to our fellow beings, we are illuminated and made beautiful within, so emitting a reflex of our own virtues that can benefit others. Okay? So this is one wing. This is one of our progresses, right? Wisdom. Through wisdom, which begins with the acquisition of knowledge, we gather influences from those who have gone before us towards progress, who sends us the reflection of their own greatness, so impelling us towards heaven. Remember on my recap, I left one thing out, which was cooperation, chapter 3. Just to give in to this. Right here. We are love. If we're created by God, right? This mind, this person, whatever we want to call, the creator of all creators, we are created in love, in the name of love, right? And we'd like to connect with this idea of the wisdom that Emmanuel is bringing, the idea that we receive from cooperation, and reminding us again that we need this cooperation. That we need these individuals or spirits or guiders or masters, whatever that is, whether on earth incarnated here with us, if they have been with us, or perhaps those who are on the other side, our mentors, right, or guardian angels. But those are the 2 wings that we have to work on, and we must work on. Now, when we study this idea of instruction, who are receiving with or who are receiving from, or what kind of instruction we're receiving, it's also important for us to, as Emmanuel mentions, to remind ourselves that through love, we are better able to undertake life. Through wisdom, life increases in value. And he reminds us that we have to grow in both ways. Changing the idea a little bit of wisdom, right? We start thinking about the moral side that loves us, that love drives us towards, and this wisdom, which is what? When we reflect, when we question, right? What comes first? What is more important in our lives? to be a love and kind person or to be a reasonable person. That everything that we do and say and live, we put our reason first. Sometimes we get people like that, right? Sometimes we meet people that they're very kind. They do everything, but has no reason. Has no reason whatsoever, right? Is both of them needed? Yes, they are. Which one is the most needed? Love. Paul is saying love. What about reason? If we were to say, since we're applying these teachings in our lives today, in general, let's take a quick picture of the United States of America. What do we need? Love, right? Good. And again, I'm saying this because we have, again, to apply this in our lives, right? So in this Spirit's book, we would like to bring something that we have visited before, and we have had open discussions about it and kind of go here and there, but hopefully we'll get to a consensus, not now, later on in life, not in this lifetime. In the part 3 of the Spirit's book, chapter 23, we will be studying the law of progress. When the question is, does moral progress always follow intellectual progress? And the answer is, it is its consequence, but it does not always follow it immediately. So Paula, with her answer, and I think most of us agree, we need love. We have a lot of reasoning. We have a lot of technology. We have made amazing advancements. But now, with the love, we need to know how to apply this information that we're receiving. One may ask, well, what about the higher spirits? What do? Do they give the fish? Do they give the fishing rod? Fishing rod, right. What do? If you are hungry, are you going to teach if someone is hungry and the person comes to you, are you going to teach the person how to cook? Or are you going to give some food for the person to eat first, and then you're going to teach the person how to cook? If obviously we're taking consideration that the person that cannot eat or doesn't have anything to eat because that person doesn't know how to cook. Because there may be other reasons. So we have to specify here. We're going to give some food to the person, right? This is a simple example, but there are several things in life that we need to analyze when somebody comes to us and they have an issue or a situation arises, and we apply the wrong dosage of, let's say, the antidote of the remedy, right? We're too reasonable. Oh, why is this person doing this? Why is that happening? We question. Wait a minute, right? And the person who may be in need of help does not receive what they need. On the other side, if we give, we're also going to be responsible for the wrong acts that the person will fall into. Or being lazy sometimes. Simply being lazy, because there will always be someone to give food to that individual. So we have to grow. We have to stretch these two wings so we're not damaging ourselves and damaging others either. This question has a part A and part B as well. And Kardec asked, how can intellectual progress lead to moral progress? By making good and evil understandable. For then, humans can choose. The development of free will follows the development of intelligence and increases the responsibility of humans for that act. I did wrong yesterday. And guess what? I'm going to get up and I'm going to do the right thing. And with that thought, with that rehabilitation process comes what? A sense of responsibility. Because I don't want to err anymore. And I don't want to let others err anymore. Right? Then, how can one explain that the most enlightened creatures are often the most perverted? We ask this all the time. Here on Earth right now. This is our situation on Earth right now. Complete progress is the goal, but like individuals, cultures only reach it step by step until they have developed the moral sense. They may use their intelligence to do evil. Morality and intelligence are two forces that only achieve balance over time. So this is our ascension to God, and this is the ascension that perhaps some of the mentors that we see in Spiritism. I was talking to Chris earlier about the mentor who accompanied Andrea Luiz on the book Missionaries of Light, Alexander. Beautiful. I think he's one of the most eloquent and I believe, I shouldn't say it that way, but that touched me the most, right? And we see this connection, this help of the cooperation that Emmanuel is saying on this book and that we receive from these other individuals. The instructions that we can get from them, from this cooperation. And there are others as well, right? Druzo from Action and Reaction. Who else? You guys probably remember more than I do as far as the names on the different books. You're reading the Messengers. Who is the Messengers? I don't remember. Anyway, so these different minds that come and help us. And guess what? They do both. They give us both. They give the love, number one, with their patient. Aulus? I don't remember. Anyways, let's not get not caught up with the names. So they treat us patiently, right? And they give us these instructions. They give us the opportunity to ascend and to grow in these two areas. Now, this is really interesting. I believe it's right here. No. Okay. Intelligence devoid of love is like an unuseful signpost that shows the pilgrim the right road, but leaves him to the torments of thirst. That's intelligence. That's the reason that that's not it. Sorry. I didn't want to confuse you guys. Goodness, which is ignored, is like a shady well that quenches the thirst of the traveler, but does not show him the way. So you're going somewhere, and you're thirsty. You have water, but then what? Intelligence, the reason that we talked about, devoid of love, is like a useful signpost that shows us the right road, but leaves him to torments of thirst. Okay, I have the sign, but I'm still thirsty. I may get there, but in the middle of the way, I'll probably fall dead because I don't have anything to drink. We need both. Until one day, we'll know the dosage to separate one thing to the, well, not separate, but to put one and one together and to deliver the right treatments that we need, right? But we still separate things. We still, since we're talking about two amazing qualities, because of our vocabulary, whatever that is, we need to separate them. And we need to correspond to this both growth that we have to reach. And that's why that's one of the reasons that we're here as well. Now, he continues by saying, we all have the need to both instruction and love, to study and to serve our inevitable routes in the work of elevation. To study. We need to receive the instruction. We need to be open for the instruction. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere. And how do we apply it? We need to serve. We need to put into practice. Right? We go to school, we receive. Then guess what? You got to take a test. This is life. This is life. So anything that we see, civilizations, succeed civilizations without interruption according to the influx of mental heritage that we received. We received the instructions, perhaps on the other side before we reincarnated, and we continue to receive instructions while we're reincarnated, but we are here now applying, right? A lot of inventions that we have nowadays, sometimes I wonder, how did that person find out such a thing? How are they putting this technology into good use nowadays, right? And we didn't think of that. These are people who are 24/7 studying, working hard, connecting with higher minds, open themselves up to get to this position. So that is instruction for us. That is the need for us to sincerely work on it. And then Emmanuel finishes this chapter with two beautiful instructors that we had, Socrates and Jesus. And the reason I ask Juliana to keep this open was not only for me to excuse myself for my ignorance, but also to go back to what she says here. And where is it? Okay. The honesty of someone who recognizes his or own limit is worthy of esteem. And even if you are aware of the information that someone is giving you, listen with patience. You will be able to check it against what you know and enrich your own knowledge or correct it. A person who seems very informed in reality may have only a superficial knowledge, appearing to know more than he actually does. Why am I reading this again? If you ever read any piece of Socrates, he goes on and on and on with questions and questions and questions and questions, trying to extract from us the final answer, what is truly inside of us, believing that we have the seeds of goodness inside of us. The Republic, any discussion that he had written by Plato, we will see that he's asking and asking and asking. Sometimes it's very tiring, by the way, but that was the idea. And Emmanuel, it brings this idea as a great instructor trying to extract this analysis from us. So did Jesus, right? And this is actually a piece from the Apology right here. And he said, someone will say, and aren't you not ashamed, Socrates, of a course of life which is likely to bring you to an untimely end? To him I may fairly say, I lost myself here. To him I may fairly answer, there you are mistaken. A man who is good for anything ought not to calculate the chance of living or dying. He ought only to consider whether in doing anything, he is doing right or wrong, acting the part of a good man or a bad one. This is thousands of years ago, guys. And here we are debating on some of the same things that they were debating again about justice, about life, mentionings of life after life. And we are here talking about the same thing, the same injuries that they had in the past. Here we are talking again. And if we can get anything from Socrates, is this idea to question and question and question yourself again. If we think we know something, think again. Because perhaps there is a little bit more to know, just as Joanna de Angelis said. Why did Jesus, as the governor of the earth, as we're going to see here, as our guide and model, allow this man to come before him, way before? Because he's in control of everything. As we study with Spiritism, Jesus, as we saw at the beginning on the first chapter as well, under the guidance of Jesus, allowed this man to go, okay, now go and reincarnate. Talk to these people. Bug them. Because I say it again, sometimes when you're reading some of these passages, it's tiring. It's like, Socrates, really? You have more questions about this? But you want to prove a point. That we have, number one, the seeds of love inside of us, the seeds of justice, as well as the capability to ask, to question. What for the time was the status quo. And then I brought this other passage here of Mark 9, chapter 9, 23. Jesus said to him, if you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes. This is the passage this is the moment where in Mark, because also we find this in Matthew too, that Jesus was called to heal the young boy that the father brought to him. And the apostle could not actually heal him. And Jesus was kind of upset, right? You couldn't heal because you didn't have any faith, which we're going to talk about next. But for us to remind ourselves, we really have to believe in ourselves. Now Jesus comes the same way, and we see with, I think that besides the Bible, a better explanation, exemplification of this is the book Jesus at Home. When at Peter's house, they held several God at Home or Jesus at Home meetings moments where they sat down together and they started studying, and someone would come with a question and say, Jesus, what about this? How is this? And Jesus would kindly ask another question. Well, what do you feel about it? And he would try to extract from the person what the person was feeling. The true instructor, right? The true coordinator of our lives. To get to know the teaching is to undertake our liberation by placing ourselves on the road to new horizons of life. Therefore, it is our responsibility to always study and make the best choices so that our ideas and examples may reflect the ideas and examples of the superior spirit of light. Okay? This is Emmanuel, by the way. I'm sorry. This is it, going back to Emmanuel. I'm sorry. I know it says, this is Emmanuel telling us, again, we really have to work hard in our lives to learn, to receive the instruction, and to put into practice. It's not for us to guard for ourselves. Much like ourselves, when we go, for example, to work, when we go to school, when we're writing something, when we're thinking of something, we are spiritists. Do I have to say that I'm a spiritist to everybody? No. But we have to act like the teachings that we receive. How does that work? If I may propose something to anybody, right, I will start talking about consequences. I will start talking about responsibilities. Not only now, but in the future as well. So my actions now will certainly change my future. Whether tomorrow, whether a year from now, or, most importantly, next life. No, yeah, it's mind-blowing when you tell somebody who's not a spiritist or who's not spiritualist at all, and I don't have to say what I just said, but then I'll try to pose myself and do the best that I can, because I'm not perfect yet. We're not perfect yet, so we're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna get mad. We're gonna shout. We're gonna do things that are not according to what we're studying. But guess what? We have to take a step back and say, I'm not gonna do that again. I'm gonna try to be a little bit more settled in my life. So that's the idea of instruction. Moving on to chapter number 5, education. It's really interesting because he talks about cooperation, and he connects with instruction, bringing this idea of wisdom that we receive from others. Love, wisdom, receiving, growing these two areas, that we're always connected with these higher minds. And now he's going to talk about education. Connecting again with Christ, as he starts the chapter, he says, Christ said, let your light shine. And it is he, the divine master, who is our sublime guiding light in the evolution of this planet. When this was said, what was the idea of this passage? If you read this, put everything aside. If you read this right now, what do you get out of it? Today. Okay. All right, let all your talents come out, multiply. Kirsten. So Kirsten is saying, let your the light of Christ shine through you, right, to come through you and onto others. Great explanations. But let's go back to it and read again. Let your light. What light? Where's the light? Do you see light here? With this white shirt, but do you see light? Only if you're a medium? Oh, if you sense, okay. If you're a medium, you can sense my light. Okay. So then you give a different definition of light to the light that I just mentioned. That's good. And these are the questions that we have to, what is this light? Where's your light, Chris? Think about it, right? So going back to the idea of light, think of those people then now. They're probably in this esoteric or this religious idea that, oh, I have a light and this halo and all that. And then Emmanuel reminds us of something really interesting, right? He says the following. People used to believe that the Lord's advice was only a mystical call urging superficial worshippers within orthodox to believe in a supposed individual prominence to be acquired after death upon entering an imaginary celestial court. And what do we have today with the different sciences? Is it just the physical body? I'm not talking about the science of spiritism that we study here, right? Science is already telling us we are light, right? Energy. And it's amazing because you think, oh, this is so superficial, but no, Jesus already told us. But 2,000 years ago, he couldn't explain quantum physics to us. He could not go into math, yes, but other sciences that we have developed very recently to understand the idea of light, right? All that we said is correct, right? But what is this light? What is this thing that we are dealing with every single day, the exchanges, and we don't pay attention to? Our potential. When I ask you, where's your light? You have your light, right? You have your good habits, right? You have the things that you have conquered in this life. If we are reincarnated here, 2018 today, or about to reincarnate, guess what? We have a light. We have a light. We have a potential. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Yes, if we compare to the mentors that we say earlier, and yes, we're still behind, but guess what? We have reached thus far. So we have a light. We can shine this light on ourselves and under the guidance of this guiding model. Question 625, what is the most perfect standard that God has offered to humankind as a guiding model? Jesus. He again takes the ultimate goal, the way, the truth, and the life, and presents to us again, reminds us again with this chapter, the chapter starter or beginner, if you like to, whatever you like to say, reminding us that we are on this evolutionary path to reach this idea, right? Remember when we said that the mind is this mirror, right? Before we get in there, it's important that we remind ourselves that anything that happens, anything that we have developed, all the sciences, all the knowledge that we have is through education. Educating ourselves in both areas, right, that we have mentioned. Utilizing the instructions that we have received and developed ourselves. Nothing that we have, that we see, is new. Sometimes, oh, this invention. Guess what? Guess what? It's hard work, but it's not an invention. Because think about planets, orbits that are more evolved than us. Many, right? And thank you, many. They're ahead of us. They have discovered the things that we're still bugging ourselves for it. I was reading a little bit about the unfortunate disease of cancer. And some of the things that they were trying to get into or they have developed, but obviously there are scientific methods that they have to follow it, and that takes years, right? In those years, unfortunate enough, some people die, right? They know that perhaps there is a cure there, but it's still developing. And most of the time, we also have laws that, look, you cannot put this in the market yet. This is detrimental. There is no findings yet, no proof that this will actually help. But it amazed me that we're working so hard to find this cure for certain situations, right? Certain cases that perhaps in other planets, they don't have to face this anymore. Number one, they treat the body much better than we do, right? And the mind. Thank you. The mind and the heart. And if they were to have to face such a thing, they have already the remedies. So we have to, again, give, obviously, these people send the good vibrations to them, these scientists and these doctors that are working on this, and making sure that we're praying for them and vibrating for them, perhaps vibrating for the whole earth, that we get out of the situation to have these difficult moments of our lives, these illnesses that still bugs us. Going back to this, the human mind is a mirror of light which projects and assimilates rays. Again, he says that, right? So we are receiving, imagine everybody with a mirror right now. Imagine everybody with a mirror. You're going to project what you want to project over me, right? If you ever, and we're going to talk about, it's funny because he keeps going back to this explanation, and he uses an analogy that is much like it as well. At least we're going to use it to understand faith a little bit more. So imagine ourselves with a little mirror, right? And you can reflect the light, you can reflect yourself. If you use a rear view mirror in your car, you will see that you can see what you want to see, but the person sitting next to you can see something that is completely different that you're seeing. And that alone tells us that the perceptions of life, right? That things are different. Where I'm sitting in the car, perhaps what I can see is completely different than what you can see. But we need to understand that we're sitting in different positions. However, this mirror is more or less a prisoner of the thick shadows of ignorance, just as before excavation, a precious stone is encrusted by subterranean sediments in order to be able to give off celestial irradiations and project its own brightness. It is indispensable to cast off this layer of darkness through a process of perfecting and enlightenment. It's there. It's there. The potential is there. Thank you. The seeds of love, as we study here over and over and over, guess what? It's there. Now, we have, through hard work, reach out to the mud and grab the stone. And after you grab the stone, what's going to happen? You have to clean it off. You have to extract all the imperfections that are around it and make sure that it is that final product that we all want, right? We just celebrated Valentine's, the stone that all the ladies love, right? And they are forever. They're just like the diamonds, they are forever. Knowledge is forever. That's the best stone that we can get. Knowledge, it's forever, right? Oh, this is already giving away a little bit of everything, but I want to show you this picture. Give me 1 second. But this idea of knowledge is extremely interesting because it's something that sometimes we hide from it, and we don't want to. Animation styles up here, and we don't want to work hard at it because we think that life on earth is easy. No, it's not. It's hard work, and we really have to dive into ourselves. Much like this picture right here. It's kind of hard to understand, right? Or this is inside of us, right? This beautiful picture around, and he says the following, very poetic. But education that refines the intellect and improves mankind's inner world in knowledge and goodness, wisdom and virtue is not achieved merely by instructions from the outside. Rather, it must have the conscious consent of will. Here's the will again. When the will that dedicates itself freely and spontaneously to goodness without any constraints, it can liberate and refine the heart, imprinting on it a crystal clear image of the soul. That's why we put this right here. To refine ourselves, right? Have you noticed when we decide to do something and we are eager to do something, guess what? There's a better chance for us to reach the ultimate feeling about that subject that we're doing versus when somebody tells us to do something, right? No wonder we don't like work. We have to do it. We have to go. But when we go on vacation, we go do something else, we put our will into it, or even if we do something at work, right, that we think it's the greatest test ever, It's so hard, but we are dedicated to do it, and we have that deadline that we deliver. Afterwards, we look at it and say, oh, that was so easy. I thought it was going to be pretty hard, but we get it done. Because we put this drive behind it, right? And we put the education that we receive, the instruction that we receive from the outside into good use with the will. Remember the cabinet of will. And we're going to talk about will again. We're not away from the will. If there is a will, there is a way, right? To finalize this chapter, the soul is then able to reflect the glorious life, subsequently transforming the mind into a precious powerhouse of superior energy projecting reflexes of beauty and sublimation. Remember the mirror? What are we projecting on the mirror right now? Then it was just mud. Now that we have worked ourselves with our will, it's going to be much better. I'm going to be able to reflect this glorious life. Ideals, thoughts, teachings, right? Even if we have to teach a kid 1 + 1, you're going to do it in such an eloquent way that the kid is going to be amazed, right? So we have to reach this idea. Then we move to faith. My favorite topic to talk about it. Not really. And I say this because it's so abstract. It's not easy. It's like talking about God. Let's talk about God. Well, we're still so ignorant, in a good sense, not in a bad way, but to understand the Creator. It's hard for us to understand the creation ourselves. Imagine the Creator. So I pose this passage of the Bible here. It's in Hebrews 11 from 1 to 3. What is faith? Faith means being sure of the things we hope for and knowing that something is real even if we do not see it. Faith is the reason we remember great people who lived in the past. It is by faith we understand that the whole world was made by God's command, so what we see was made by something that cannot be seen. Are we good with this answer? Okay, so what do you guys think? What is faith? Kirsten. And I'm actually going to pass the microphone on this because this is important.
Well, I think everything that you've gone over, what you've just gone through, I mean, it all boils down to having faith. I mean, starting out with the chapter of, let your light shine. And then, what did you talk about after that? You talked about, yes, and the picture of that beautiful picture of that whole world inside of yourself that we all have. I mean, ultimately, it's needing to have this belief within yourself that you can reflect this light and belief in God that He created you for something great. But I think all of it's abstract because none of it's tangible. You can't, hold it in your hand and see it and feel it and quantify it or qualify it. It's just how you feel. It's subjective. So I think that's why it is such a long journey.
Thank you for connecting with my abstract mind as well and saying it because it is abstract. Paula.
To me, faith is like my spiritual umbilical cord that was never severed.
Say that again? Say that again? Okay.
My spiritual umbilical cord that was never severed.
So some people know that it's there, some people don't know. Anybody else would like to take a shot? There's no wrong answer. You know why? I'm not going to tell you why. Not right now. Because I want to continue with this, and I want you to pay attention to the abstractness of the idea of faith. And that's important as well. Don't think that that is bad. Because at first, when I started studying and analyzing this idea of faith, I thought it was something bad. Much like the will. Remember when Joanna de Angelis says the will, that if things are not happening or it's because we're not practicing our will. We have to practice more. If we don't think that, our lives is this way or that way, it's not moving, practice your will. right? Chapter 50 of the Happy Life, book Happy Life. So we're going to continue, but then we're going to take we're going to stop, I would say 2 slides later to go in depth of this idea of the distractedness, right? And Emmanuel, going back to Emmanuel, he says the following. It is not enough to admit the existence of goodness in order to find it and assimilate its light. We must search for it with perseverance and fervor. Look around. We have light. Projection of light. We have light in the room. If we're home, we have light at home as well. You flip the switch, guess what? Light is there. Now, did it just appear there? No. There is a whole system that it was actually was put together at the house, in the house, that allows you to take this energy and what? Make light shine. Here go again, the light shine, right? There's a whole system. Now, is that it? No. There is an energy that needs to be connected from the outside that needs to power your home. Now, what is creating this energy? The powerhouses, whatever we want to call it, right? The different ways that we create energy nowadays, right? The nuclear, the hydro, and different ways, solar as well. Now we're exploring. We're going to see a little bit more here, but all of this, right, is happening, and we're not even thinking about it. Simple, right? I have the faith that this is going to turn on. Is it a little bit more tangible now? We're getting there. We're getting there, right? Still not, to me, it's still not convincing. And I believe, and I'm not putting anything down that Emmanuel is saying and what we will see later on. I still believe that we will get out of here tonight and we'll still have doubt about our faith. We will still have doubt about our will because it's something that progresses, and we'll see. He connects again with this powerhouse. The reason I said about the switch, because this is what Emmanuel actually brings to us and allows us to explore, since it's something more tangible to us. We don't deny the light. We don't. We just believe it's there. First thing that we do when we go traveling is what? We turn on our cell phones, is at least when we go abroad, right? Looking for what? Wi-Fi. Exactly. I'm trying to bring it to we use electricity, and now we're bringing to the Wi-Fi. When I travel to Brazil, when I get to the airport, what do? Free Wi-Fi. Sometimes you have to use your email or your phone number, whatever, to register, and you only get for 2 days. Hopefully now it's changing, but the things that we go. I'm using this because we are trusting that when we get to that place, there's better be Wi-Fi so I can call my family, right? When we get home, I want to flip the switch. I hope that energy will be there. I pay the bill, so hopefully they haven't, do anything crazy to cut my my electricity. The faith behind all this, right? We got up this morning. Did we think about coming to the SSB tonight? Right? And we thought about the snow too. But we had faith that we're going to get here, and here we are. Did we question that perhaps the building was going to be here? No. We had faith that it was going to be here. And all the things that we do in life, every single thing. Emmanuel touched on a very interesting subject. Do you have faith that the lunch that you had today or the dinner that you will have today will nourish your body? Well, whether you make a good choice or not, guess what? Even if you eat a stick of butter, right? Your body will do everything that it can in its power to digest a stick of butter and keep you alive. Thank you. No. I'm not saying that's a bad or good choice. What I'm saying is, exactly, it's going to take the fuel that it needs, right, to go ahead and keep us alive, to make sure that we're having balance in our lives. And we still doubt faith. And perhaps we still will. It's okay. It's nothing bad. And he says, faith is a power that is born with the soul itself. It is an instinctive certainty in the wisdom of God, which is the wisdom in it of life itself. It breathes within all beings and vibrates in all things. Everything, the animals, the plant, all the kingdoms, faith is there. Every kind of activity in life develops in one way or another by faith. Everything that happens, and he gives the different analogies that we mentioned some of them, that everything happens in this idea. The river depends on the existence of the spring in order to become a large and deep body of water, right? He posed this question right here. But how can we express faith? So we can express faith in a bad situation. So we have to wait for the negative to happen in order for us to believe. Once we have, then we practice. Okay. Paula, I know you want. Thank you. Thank you. That's good. You live your faith every day, right? So here's what I did. Because we have all these questions, we went back to the foundation, the gospel according to Spiritism. And we're going to bring some, let's say, elements of faith that helps us and perhaps will help us when we have our doubts. That's okay to have doubt. That's okay to not have faith in this or that area. Perhaps we're good in some areas, perhaps not. And I'm going to resort on to something that so we can, let's say, exemplify a little bit better what is faith for us before we get to the part that talks about faith in the gospel according to Spiritism. I want to read something. In chapter 27, which is the chapter that talks about ask and it shall be given, right? That talks about the prayer, the effectiveness of prayer, which is an amazing part of the book, because sometimes we have our doubts, we don't know how to pray, or sometimes we're so in such a difficult situation that we don't even have words, right? And that's why we asked, to pray for me, or when we're doing well, we pray for others. If we see something wrong, pray for that person. Send the good vibrations. Hear me out. Spiritism makes the act of prayer understandable by explaining how thought is transmitted, either when the spirit to whom we are praying comes to our help, or when our thought raises themselves up to this being. In order to understand what happens in this circumstance, it is necessary to consider all incarnate and discarnate beings as immersed in the universal cosmic fluid, which occupies as we on earth are immersed in the atmosphere. Remember the analogy of the pool, right, that we have given here several times. Think of ourselves now in a pool. Everybody goes inside of the water, very quiet. Nobody feels a thing. But if Leo goes crazy and starts splashing or swimming, right, what's going to happen? You guys will feel the ripples, right? And it's the same thing. We talked about the last time we were here, right? The influences that we cause on one another, right? And it's reciprocal. Sometimes we can't stop. It's just going to come. You can't stop. You can't tell the little kid, stop swimming, stop jumping, right? Splashing water, because the kid is happy. That's what's going to happen in the pool. We're in the pool. A bunch of kids are swimming, right? Unless if they have the moment that, kids have to be out. What do you call again? Adult swim, right? It's very simple, adult swim. It's the same thing. So he continued by saying, this fluid receives an impulse from willpower, which is the vehicle of thought, just as air is the vehicle for sound, with the difference that the vibrations of air are circumscribed, whereas those of the universal cosmic fluid extended infinitely. So the willpower is the vehicle, right? Question again. You're here today, right? How did you get here? You use your car. What if I were to tell you now that your car will not turn on when you go home because your battery is bad? No, that's after the fact. That's after the fact, Louise. Louise will say, call the insurance, because I don't want to put a commercial here for, call the insurance company, right? If you have a road, that's after the fact. We know that we have ways out, right? But you have a car. Most likely, if you have a car, you have what? A battery. If you have a battery and it's good, it's working, guess what? You're going to get to the point from point A to point B. Think of faith as your battery. You will get there. You're right. Perhaps you're going to call roadside assistance, and they're going to come, and they're going to go ahead and fix the car, whatever problem that is, and you're going to get to point B, right? You will probably call a friend and say, okay, now I have to go. You will get there. The will push you to get there. But guess what? If that battery is not working, it's not going to happen. Now, if the battery is working, especially now in the winter, right? You turn on the car, boom, no problem whatsoever. So imagine, at least to myself, it makes sense, of having this faith, this battery that along with the will, which is the vehicle, right? You see the analogy now? The will, the vehicle, allows me to go and get to the place that I have to get when I would like to get to that place. You have a point to get to, and we're going to see this again from the Gospel according to Spiritism as well. You have a destination. When you have this faith that works, you get there faster. You get there when you have to get there. With this analogy, faith moves mountains, as Jesus said to us. Do you believe it moves mountains? Is it symbolic? All those bulldozers that we see sometimes extracting certain minerals from the earth, they're moving mountains, and that's a lot of dirt. So it happens. But when we talk about faith, yes, in the Gospel according to Spiritism, they're very specific about that. Here, in the sense of the word of moving the obstacles that we have in front of us, right? So yes, you're moving the mountains, like much like a mother. Several kids. Sometimes I see this since I deal with the public. You see a mother coming with one kid and the other holding over here. Let me tell you something. That's not easy. And if you see a father, guess what? The father has the little stroller and all those things. And sometimes I think, oh, he's very intelligent. Guess what? The mother prepared everything. It was not him. The mother prepared everything. So it's, yes, moving mountains. Yes, it's not easy. Because we think that moving dirt, when we're talking about mountains, it's hard. No. Think about the mountains that we move day in and day out in our relationships, in our difficulties. Think of the idea of, for example, when we take care of someone who is ill at home, physically speaking, whatever that is, and we come here at the Spiritist Center and we give passes. Which one is more important? Right? Think of doing something at home, something trivial, okay, washing the dishes. But then when you're supposed to give support to the person who is also washing the dishes, which is more important? I'm trying to think here, and make us think that this idea of moving mountains, this idea of dealing with the physical, it's very easy, especially with the technology that we have nowadays. But when we have faith that tomorrow is going to be a better day, that we will change, we will make a better living, right? That is the struggle that sometimes it goes unnoticed. And yes, it does move mountains. Both ways. To me, I like to see it both ways. Obviously, again, in the Gospel according to Spiritism, we see the spirits Kardec actually explaining that it's in the sense of eliminating the obstacles of life. Faith is confidence we have in the realization of something and the certainty of attaining a specific end. Okay? We have to have a purpose. We have to have an end point. We didn't just pop up in this room today. We have to have a purpose. So if we have the end point, guess what? By having this faith, the battery again that is working in our cars, we're going to get there. But if we live a life where we don't think of anything, we don't have a desire, we don't have an ultimate goal in life, where do we have faith? Right? Now, that is a goal, trying to reaching a goal in the future. We have our goals. Tonight, many of us will prepare ourselves to hopefully wake up tomorrow. And we have to go, we have an event with the SSB tomorrow. Yes, we do, right? Guess what? It's there. You have it. We all have it, right? Faith, which is real and sincere, is always calm. It permits patience with which knows how to wait, because having its foundation in intelligence and the understanding of life, it is certain of reaching the object it aspires to. We talk about the object. We talked about the ultimate goal. So if we connect with this other feeling or mastery of calmness, of being patient, guess what? We get there. This is one of the things that I have been noticing a whole lot, and I talk to perhaps some of you, and in different situations of life, that I gather from work sometimes. The lack of faith that we have. When I say faith, it's not the faith that now we're talking about the religious and all those things. The good kind, the person that sees the obstacles of life and don't despair, in the sense that at least they put up a fight. Okay, we have this issue. Let's stop going crazy. Let's see, what can we do, right? What are our tools that we have in our hands? How can we change this for the better? Yeah, perhaps, we did well, but we can do even better, right? And then when we ask people, they're like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. This is too hard. And then when we put the idea of time, how long it's going to take to get to a certain point, they just, I don't want to deal with this. Analogy. Here in Maryland, it's very easy for us to go from one place to the other, right? Because everything's far. And we hardly have public transportation, unless if you live in Baltimore. It's a little bit easier because you can go from one place to here and there, right? But if, for example, even for us to drive to the SSB, it takes a while for many of us, right? And we are so used to this idea of driving, of taking our cars and driving for half an hour to get to the center or to get here or there, as well as other places in the world that people have to take public transportation and go for hours before they can get to their houses, whatever, worship or whatever they have to do. When we lived in Florida for one year, everything the place where we're living, there is no place near the highways, perhaps. So we had to take back roads. If we were to consider those roads here in Maryland, we had to take back roads. Guess what? A stretch of perhaps 5 miles, it took us half an hour. The same time that I drive from here to Westminster, which is about 30-some miles, right? It's about that perception. So people, when you said, okay, I live about an hour away, or if you were to say miles, right? Well, I live 50 miles away. Oh my goodness, you're going to drive all that? No, I'm not doing it. That little stretch, that little problem of driving, because sometimes it can be a problem, it can be perturbing. I'm not going to lie. I have actually worked very far from home, and it's not easy. But people would say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going over there. That's too far for me. Perception. And the ability that we give ourselves to defeat ourselves before we even think of the benefits that we will get to. Just a little analogy. And when we're dealing with people like that, it's not easy, right? Then that's how we have to exercise the spiritist ideals. Be calm, be patient, and have faith. Connect these two together. It is not presumptuous, rather true faith is linked to humility. Excuse me, the typo's there. It is linked to humility, not presumptuous. I can do it. I will do it. Right? It's connected with humility. Another trait that we have to develop. This idea that nothing happens without God. Nothing happens without instruction in the right time. Those two have to go together. The calmness to be able to wait and to be able to exercise, right? And to keep going. because we're going to have to wait. To take care of a situation that I have inflicted on someone else, or for sure, well, not or, and for sure inflicted on myself 2 reincarnations ago, it may take 2 more. And we talk about, let's say, 100 years per reincarnation, especially now that we are living more, right? Guess what? 300 years from now. And that sometimes is inside of me what? Bugging me, right? I need to do this. And we have that feeling, oh, I need to get this done. Calm yourself down. Have faith. We're gonna get there. The power of faith can be demonstrated in a direct and special manner in magnetic action. It's this magnetism that we provide to one another. We talk about the power source in the past session of this dynamic, right, energy that we can create within ourselves, with one another as well. Receiving, giving, right? It's this contagious idea that let's get through it. Let's get it done. Here are the tools. You have to apply it, but here are the tools. Faith can be blind or rationalized, nor rationalized. Excuse me. Faith can be blind or rationalized. This is where one of the areas that Spiritism brings us a lot of enlightenment, right? And besides the religious point of view of faith, of, oh, I believe in this God, I believe in this spirit, I believe in this saint, how do you believe it? What are they, right? What do you believe this way? Question yourselves. Going back to Socrates, rationalize and ask more. Nobody's doubting, or it's not that we're doubting ourselves, but we want explanations. No wonder we're here. Otherwise we would be at different places. No wonder we're here. So at times it can be blind. Some people, they just believe. They have developed this over and over, and we'll see over and over through different reincarnations in different areas of their life, that sometimes it's like, wow, how can you believe that this is going to work? It's going to work. Just like the mother that we mentioned, right? When she has to go with the kids from one place to the other, it happens. And then when we rationalize and we find good answers, concrete answers, guess what? We want more. Faith cannot be prescribed or imposed. This is a very good area as well, that we really have to think about it. I can't tell Juliana or Sarah that, look, have faith, and I'm going to give it to you some faith, or I have to impose this on you. No. We have to work at it. As much as our will, it's the same thing. We have to work at it. Kirsten.
Just wanted to illustrate with an example how the power of faith can be demonstrated in direct and special matter magnetic action, and how that ties into faith cannot be prescribed nor imposed. One of my sisters growing up, she was never afraid of anything. She was never afraid of the dark, never afraid of... So when we were little, me and my oldest sister used to get into the bed with my middle sister, because she always had such faith that, although we didn't define it as such when we were little, now as an adult and learning about faith and the magnetic action of faith, I think because she had so much of it that when we were close to her, we felt safe. So I feel like other people who have a lot of faith, it feels good to be around them, although they can't give you theirs, but it feels good to be around those kind of people.
It serves as an instruction. It serves as an education, right? Hence the reason why he's bringing these chapters one after the other. So thank you. It is true. Remember, you come to the SSB, we're not going to prescribe you or give it to you, meaning here's the remedy that you have to take. Like when you go to the get your whatever medication, they give it to you. No, it's not going to happen. If you come here with a struggle, we're not going to impose anything on anybody. Believe on this, have faith on this. We're going to give you the tools, but we have to work at it. And that, for some people, it's not good, because they want the antidote. They want the answers for things that they're going through, and how can we give the answers? We don't even know what happened before, right? Faith grows with our progress. These are just highlights of chapter 19 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. Faith grows with our progress. Some of us have it, and if we can say this way, great amounts, in certain areas of life, right? Some people, they are very gung-ho about their professional life, right? But in certain other areas, they need the help. And it's okay, because again, those are areas as well, they will be developed with time. Going back to Emmanuel, let me actually pose another question. Is it better? Perhaps it may not be the right answer what faith is. But with these qualities and some of the things that faith is not, obviously, right? Hopefully, this gives us a better direction of what faith is and how we need to apply faith in our lives, right? Take a look at the sun right now. And this is the analogy, so we can close, that Emmanuel brings to us. It's the sun, right? Emmanuel uses the idea of the sun shining for everybody. Everybody has it, right? This light. However, if one of us or some of us has a lens, right, that we can take this light and put this lens on top of us, that lens will what? Multiply the effect of the sun. If it's a very powerful lens, it's going to burn us, right? Or if it's a mirror, for example, and we're projecting onto something, guess what? You probably will burn that that whatever you're projecting the light into. Anybody knows what this is? Okay, it's a cross circle, yeah, of a bunch of mirrors. Yeah, crop circle. Yes, thank you. Yeah, much like nosolar, right? What it is, it's a bunch of, I'm sorry, the picture is not showing too much of the information that I wanted to bring over here. It's the harvesting of sunlight to actually make the top of this little tower here hot, and taking that heat and changing or producing energy, right? Electricity. This is one in Seville, Spain, by the way. I forget the name of the location, but that's the information there. And this is how it explained. You see the mirrors over here, the lenses, right? Receiving the light. It heats up the tower. The water comes in cold and comes out hot, and it moves the turbine that creates energy, right? This is not what Emmanuel mentions, but I bring this here because this is a way for us to understand what he's trying to say about the sun. It's shining for everybody. But if we have the ability to connect with, what happens? We multiply it. We create more energy. Right? We transform. Thank you, Kirsten. Right? So it's there. It's for all of us. Every kind of activity in life develops in one way or another by faith. We can't run from it. We have done amazing things in life. We accomplish amazing things every day, in and out. And it's done with faith. We got here today because of faith. Right? Daniel is recording back there, having faith that some other people are watching. That this is going to reach another. No. It's a simple example, guys. But when we think about this, it helps us change our direction to the better, right? Our focus, and it helps us create a purpose in life. Because now I am dealing with energy, I'm dealing with will, faith, and all of this. I have a car, I have a battery, but I don't know where to go. Well, maybe I need to get to a good point, to a good location. So really analyze your faith. Really analyze what you have inside of you. And look what he says at the end of this chapter. Let us then seek the good in people, things and events that cross our path during our daily activities. By doing so, we will have the mirror of our mind turned towards goodness. Our mind will then incorporate into itself the eternal treasure and the happiness that is the child of faith, a happiness that is generous and dynamic, setting us free from the chains of evil, for goodness ever, constant and pure, will find in us its own truth. Let us look for the good stuff. Let us find goodness in everything that we do, everything that we deal with. Is it easy? No. Why? Remember chapter 1 that we talked about what is our own impediment? Our ignorance, ourselves. We stop ourselves from doing so. It's not Aloysio telling Leo, look at this negative stuff. No, I choose what I receive, and I, most importantly, choose what I emanate as well. Right? So we have to look for the goodness. So then we can multiply it like that powerhouse, right? That circle that we saw collecting all the sun. Imagine all of us, again, with the mirrors in our hands and say, okay, now we're going to shine this into something and we're going to create that good energy. We're going to multiply this faith. As Kirsten said, let us get together with her sister because she fears not. And we see people like that in our lives. Right? Is it going to take time? It's okay. 10 years, 20 years, a reincarnation, maybe a couple. It's all right. The evolutionary path is for all of us. The sun is for all of us. We will stop right here just to put a reminder in our minds that we cover today instruction, education, and faith. Next, we will cover chapter 7, work, association, chapter 8, and chapter 9, suggestion. Okay? So we would like to open for a couple questions. I know we went through a little bit longer than usual. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, and we urge everyone to read. We urge everyone to cross the information with other spiritist book and perhaps the knowledge that we have with anything else that we study in life. Obviously something positive with what Emmanuel is bringing to us. And we will see that it connects. Because he's talking about science in some of these passages that we don't go in depth with here, that is nowadays, just like he said, the light, right? Now we see light in a much different way. We see ourselves in a much different way than we saw in the past. So that's what we're going to be covering. Any questions, any comments?
So my question would be, if someone is struggling with their faith or doesn't have any faith, how do they develop that faith? Whether it's, of a divine faith or faith in themselves.
Good point. Number one, I would say rationalizing this because we lack the information or the understanding of what's going on. We need to ask questions. Lacking faith on what towards what, right? What is the person trying to accomplish? Every company, if it is a successful company and if it is really trying to grow, the company will have either a slogan, the company will have a mission statement, right, of what they are trying to accomplish. Otherwise, nobody's going to buy their product, because this is one of the things that we look at it when we're looking at a business. What is your mission statement? What is our mission statement at the SSB? Anybody knows? Thank you. Enlightening lives together. It's not saying that we're going to go ahead and give you, the antidote of your problems, no. But we're enlightening ourselves together, studying, getting together, making ourselves think, right? Any company will do the same thing. So to me, Kirsten, and I'll say to me because it's something that it's always good for us to look for the purpose. So what are you lacking faith in what area of your life? Because we can't take care of everything at once. So trying to find the purpose. So what is your goal? What do you would like to reach in life? So once you have that answer, then we can go ahead and pinpoint on the areas that you can help that person or help the person help herself or himself. This is where I wanted to be 5 years from now. This is where I wanted to be tomorrow. Okay, now tomorrow we have an event to go. If anybody needs a ride, if that problem is getting to that place, let's find a way to get you there, right? So I think that we need to go back to the purpose. We need to have a purpose in life, whether it's a short goal, notice goal that we have to achieve or something that we're trying to achieve in the future. That's okay. We can be very not specific of, again, we're all reaching God. We're reaching God through different ways, different pathways, which is a good thing. That's how we show our difference. But I think the purpose is the main thing that we need to analyze with people, that sometimes we feel like, oh gosh, okay, I don't know how to go about this. Well, let's dissect it, right? Until we get to that purpose in life. Does that help? Paula.
I was just going to add to our thinking on how do you get faith, that what was helpful to me when I was growing up was, for a bedtime story, my father read with me the lives of the saints. So I grew up with lots of models, and I was thinking, watching some of the Olympics this week, there are great examples in the Olympics of people with faith and willpower. So a lot of times, if we're not feeling it, if we see it demonstrated, the story helps us. And my question is, I have a new word in one of these chapters that I would just like further explanation of, and it's telementalization. Is that right? Telemental. Seeing that over great distances in space and time, we are able to incorporate ideas from the superior spirits who visited us many centuries ago. So not only do we have Socrates, but we have the guiding superior spirits. So we get direct connection in our creativity by tapping into this word. So how does that function? You explained that solar generator. Can you give me a picture of this?
Should I resort to Joanna's idea of here's my ignorance, right? I don't know. Now, the word actually it escaped me when I read, but what I would say, much as the explanation that we received from the Gospel according to Spiritism, when we are connecting through the power of prayer, the same thing is happening to us when we are working hard, or whatever goal we have to reach, or whatever we have to do, when we are trying to tap into a discovery, for example, right? Let us think of some great mind that discovers something great. Tesla, for example. When we study these great minds, Socrates and all, yes, the level of understanding about life, the matrix is there. When I say the matrix, is that these are power generating forces that these individuals have within themselves, much like Kirsten's example, that sometimes we want to be that person is so positive, right? That if we're always connecting this way with life, trying to discover, having a good conduct, meaning that my goal is of a good nature, what happens? What do we think is going to happen? We will connect with these higher minds. When we go to school, when we read a book, when we have good conversation, guess what? We're connected with minds alike. Here we have other minds. So I believe this idea of telementalization is us receiving these teachings, these reminders that perhaps we have seen it while we sleep or before reincarnating, of these minds telling us, think this way. They're not going to tell us. I don't think they tell us straight, but they show us certain aspects of life that allows us to get to certain conclusion. A scientist, when they're doing a series of study on a matter, how do you think it happens? Yeah, the product is going to be there of the studies, but they still have to think. They still have to come to a conclusion, write that conclusion, redo it over and over again to see if it comes out with the same result, and there it is. But there was an instruction, as we saw here today. And through the instruction, we developed this education. And going back to the example that you said that also ties in with faith, is right here, through wisdom that we receive from those who are gone before us, or perhaps who are here with us. If Chris can do it, guess what? I can do it. If Leo can do it, Chris can do it. That's the message. And I think that's what it, to me, what it sounds like, that's what it is that they're trying to say, if that helps.
Okay, I want to go back to that instruction. The balance. I don't know if I like the wisdom, because wisdom for me is not just a simple knowledge instruction. You know, wisdom has something more than that. But anyway, between moral values and knowledge, love or wisdom. There is true love, which is above all service to our fellow beings. I think that is, through that, I get my part. But what we do always in our stage is to have someone give us love. We don't think first to give love. As we expect love from everything, from mother, from the lovers, from everywhere, of course, if that love is cut, we get disappointed, frustrated. Once we get to that stage, all other negative feelings will appear, and that would put us backwards. So that's why I see that we are so much lagging behind with this part of the wing versus the instruction, versus the knowledge. Because we get entangled in this negative, going backwards with the pride that someone, or with my mother was supposed to have given me that thing, I pity of myself. So if we exercise what is written there, that we have to actually try to give love, not to receive love, to give love. And through that giving, donation, I will feel love inside me. Then I think we're going to grow faster. Because I heard today, it's not that it's giving coming now, but one of the talk that I see that we will have to really believe that in giving, we will receive much more, but we not put in practice. That's
That's when I resort to a little bit to, again, back, and I've discussed this with you before, the idea of economics, right? I have a product, and I have to put that in the market. If my product is defective, or if my product is not of a good quality, guess what? I will go out of business. So if I'm always trying to enhance my product and make it better, if I'm aware of the competition, which is bad to a certain degree, because I don't want to have competition, but if I don't have competition, I'm not going to make it my product better, right? So what happens is I have to perfect myself. And we do this day in and day out of our lives. We will make mistakes because perhaps that product, we have some lead paint on it, and we're going to have to recall it. The product will break easily. Then we'll find a better material to make it. Until then, some people will probably have you will buy that product the defective product that I put on the market. And it will leave a sour taste, right, in your mouth, saying, I don't want to buy from Leo again. He delivered something that was not expected, right? But then, this is where this whole teaching that we receive here tells us and say, be patient. Let's give another chance. We reincarnate. We forget about certain things. And we allow the people to come in our lives again and deliver their product, sometimes still a little bit defective, but not as it was before. So we have, in economics, I believe, this idea of perfecting ourselves. We're presenting something, somebody's going to buy it or not, depending on their needs, right? And we will perfect ourselves. Now, yes, it is in this service that we sometimes can grow, or sometimes we fall short, or even make it worse than it was before, depending on how we look on the opportunity that we have, both the seller and both the buyer. Because the buyer can say, look, I would like to return this. I don't want this. You keep it to yourself and give me my money back. Now, when you go back and you take your product and you redo it and you perfect, let me know. Perhaps I'll buy it, right? This is the mentality that we don't have yet. The rehabilitation, the ability to do it again, because we want to reach or receive perfection from others when we're not perfect yet. When we're not perfect yet. So we have to change this. We have to put into perspective the idea that if I love, if I give my best, right, it doesn't matter. If I give my best, if before I say something, I think once, twice, or 3 times, before I act this way, I think once, I perfect the product, I perfect my intention, guess what? People will buy it more. And you're going to be a loving person. You're going to be a kind person. You're going to be an acceptable person for society. Hopefully the idea of economics, buying, selling, which is our day-to-day lives, every day, will help with this idea of become a better individual. At least to me, it helps understand because it's more tangible. And we like tangible things, right? We're materialistic. Last question, so we can move on to our treatment.
Oh, I'm only going to comment on what you all just talked about. There is a developmental progression of understanding love when you're a child, and you go through some stages. And of course, it's egocentric in the beginning. You think the world is there for you. Then you move on to a more instrumental stage because you're expecting something back. And then you move, and then you move on to altruistic love, which just gives freely.
Thank you, Paula. With that, we close this evening with these enlightenments. That's why I need you guys to come to these sessions, because I don't have all the answers. I don't have the knowledge that you have. I'm merely a presenter, someone who is trying my best or our best to work together and diving into these guidelines of light that Emmanuel put it together for us with the help of many, especially Chico Xavier, called Thought and Life. We hope to see you next for the next session, which is going to be the 3rd session, chapters 7, 8, and 9, Work, Association, and Suggestion. So thank you so much. And I would like to call Kirsten for our short visualization and our passes.